those Florida State tiers are just
Oh,
they're so delicious, and there's so many of them.
oh my
I,
God.
I love it. But hey, we got more important things to talk about. We got a couple of major coaching hires on Dabo Swinney's staff. We've got guys going in the transfer portal. Couple of commits, one for this year, one for next year. Lots happening, huh?
I'm Daniel Shirley. Yeah, it's been a busy few days, right? I mean, starting what was that Thursday with the coaching firings, and then I mean it's Monday, and they're already their replacements have already been hired and approved by the board. So on top of the portal and the commits and the bowl game, it's a busy time for college football fans, Clemson fans in particular. For our podcast, I had somebody ask me this the other day. Didn't college football used to have an off season? And I said, yeah, used to that's the operative phrase. There is no off season anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot that keeps people busy, and you've got to stay hydrated, right? So hang on. Mhm. You know, I forgot how good they are when they're fresh this time of year. The Florida State Tiers, they haven't been fresh this time of year in what, nine seasons? So it's
Are
a long time. I'm
are
Bill
we
Zimmerman.
allowed to do that if they beat Clemson? I think we have to be careful with that, right?
We have to enjoy what we can where we can. I'm Bill Zimmerman. This is
Okay.
the Reign Supreme All Weight podcast. This side of the frame is coming to you from Central Florida, so a little spicy. Spicy? Do I need some more? No, I don't need some more. We're closing in on our 100th episode of the Reign Supreme All Weight podcast. You can see them all at youtube.com/Clemson Kickoff. Go ahead and comment down there. Yeah, and no matter what team you root for, bring a comment. Tell us where we're idiots. You can also tell us where you agree with us and fill in the gaps, anything we miss, because there's so much going on in this episode. So much has happened this week. Please join the community and be a part of that and bring it out there. And let's go ahead and talk. First, we're going to start, like you said, with those coaches. I think you mentioned before the show that needs to be really most of it. And about a day and a half after we recorded the last episode, we had the firings and the firing of, well, is it truly a firing? The parting of ways with offensive line coach Thomas Austin, and then what seemed to be phrased as a mutual parting of the ways with defensive end coach Lemansky Hall. Coach Dabo Swinney, in his press release, mentioned that this had kind of been in the works for a while with Hall. I think Austin was more of a this year kind of decision. It wouldn't surprise me if he had sort of been, on notice. I think everyone outside the facility uh, put a lot of attention on the fact that that was an area that needed a lot of help. And then, as I mentioned in the last episode, when you struggle the way you do against Wake Forest, the way you do against teams like a team like NC State, and then close out the year poorly up front against South Carolina, really struggling to enable the talent positions to do what they need to do and create the space that, says, hey, this is why pretty much half your offense is tasked with blocking. All five of your offensive linemen, it's half the tight end role. And when you don't get that right, and then when you look at the commit list with signing day fast approaching, and there's only one commit in that room, I don't know how this ends any other way, quite frankly. Thomas Austin, a good Clemson man. You and I have both talked about that in text feeds, and nothing to dislike about the guy personally from where we stand. But you can't argue also that it's a step up resume wise with who they brought in, and I'll let you get into that.
Yeah, look, there's no doubt about that. I'm a big Thomas Austin fan. He was a good player for Clemson.
Great player.
I thought he was a good hire when Robbie Caldwell decided to step away from coaching. And thank goodness Coach Caldwell's still around the program. You see him on the sidelines during the game, but it just didn't work. And Bill, I think this all goes to recruiting. I absolutely think this goes to recruiting. I don't look. I don't know that 2 years is enough for any college coach to prove their worth. I don't. I've always said I think every head coach deserves 5 years because that's one recruiting cycle plus whatever that hybrid first year is, right? Because I mean, think about Dabo Swinney. They signed 12 guys his first year. Remember that class, the Dandy Dozen? I mean, but you know, a lot of times coaches get hired in December. You can't put together a class that quickly. So I think coaches deserve, you know, that amount of time, or should get that amount of time, unless they do something stupid, right? Like what we saw at some places, you know, these past couple of cycles. That said, take a deep breath. The recruiting has been atrocious this cycle. Atrocious. There's one recruit. Well, now two. But there was one commit when Thomas Austin was the offensive line coach. And you really do. I mean, look, I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I'm not great at math, but I can figure out 1 and 1 equals 2. And you see one commit in this class, and you know we've got 3 weeks left until signing day, and something's not adding up with the recruiting. And was that his downfall? I think it had to be, Bill, right? I mean, it had to be.
It's hard to say because he had 2 really good classes leading into this, you know, right. 3 guys per class. And I think all of them look, you know, I mean, Owens may be a little bit of a conditioning project, but the talent is there. You know, Sadler, Reed, Miller. So I think it's a combination of both. And I think, yeah, having only one guy, and maybe it's what you're hearing on the trail, you know?
Yeah, it could be of, you know, is he not able to close? I don't know. Look, I'm guessing based on covering college football and sports for the last 30 years. I am absolutely guessing here. I don't know Thomas personally. I haven't spoken to any recruits who have spoken to him, but there has to be something that he just can't close in recruiting in this class. And you also have to wonder too, and I hate to even say this, but how much credit does he get for the first 2 classes? Right? I mean, how much was that him? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. It is open-ended. You're right.
Yeah, right. I'm asking the question. I don't have the answer. But Dabo Swinney has the answers, and Thomas Austin is no longer the offensive line coach.
And let's get into Matt Luke, who is, and I know that you followed the SEC closely for a long time because of you know, jobs that you've had coming up through the ranks. I'm impressed with Matt Luke, and I know he was someone you had atop your list the whole time.
As soon as I heard this job was open, who did I tell you?
Yep.
Who did I tell you that Clemson should hire? Matt Luke. It was a slam dunk. He's number 1. Now, look, if you said Garrett Riley's worked with guys in the past and they want to hire somebody from TCU, you got to trust Dabo Swinney.
Yes.
You got to trust that he knows where he's going with this hire. Look at what he's done every time he's had to, quote, fire someone or part ways or however you want to describe it. Look at the hires he's made the next time. Every one of them's been an upgrade.
Yeah.
Every one of them. So point being, I would have trusted whatever he wanted to do with this hire. It's his program, right? You trust him. But Matt Luke is a slam dunk offensive line coach. Why did Georgia start winning national titles and start recruiting 5-star on 5-star on 5-star on 5-star on its offensive lines? Matt Luke was a huge part of it. Not all of it. I'm not going to say that. Kirby's still there. Other recruiters are still there. Georgia's staff is loaded. But Matt Luke was part of it, and you saw the improvement in their offensive line from what they were when Mark Richt was the coach, when they were terrible in the offensive line, to what they are now. And Bill, I can't tell you how many times during the past 5-6 recruiting cycles where you go, my God, Georgia got all those guys on the offensive line?
Right.
5 of them, 6 of them every year. And you look at their offensive line the past 2 years. That's why they're so darn good.
Yeah. Someone put a tweet out there with the guys he's put in the league at every stop. Georgia, Ole Miss, Arkansas, I believe was the other place where he had a key role there and
Right.
was offensive line coach and maybe assistant head coach or co-offensive coordinator or one of those. Guy after guy after guy in the league, and if the ding on the recruiting trail with Thomas Austin and even Robbie Caldwell before that was that Clemson doesn't put enough guys in the league, you can't argue that was that was wrong. I mean, there weren't very many guys moving off this offensive line every year and into the NFL, much less in a key role once they get to the NFL. Mitch Hyatt, who was far and away the best offensive lineman we had for 4 years, had a cup of coffee in the NFL, and some of that was injury driven.
Right.
Matt
Right.
Luke, that is not the case. Matt Luke can go out there and say, hey, I can put several of you guys in the league every year. And let me get into this. It's not just recruiting now, as we're 8 days, I believe, away as we record this from the early signing day. Then you can also get some good pickups for the February signing day, the traditional signing day. You have to wonder if the portal is going to be a factor here. And if you're going to be effective in the portal, and if you're going to be effective in the portal the way Dabo Swinney has tried to be without leading your recruiting with NIL to bring a guy in just to collect the bag, then you've got to be able to say, hey, I know how to put you in the league. And Matt Luke can get out there and say that.
Yeah, I think they have to get somebody in the portal, I believe. It feels like. I mean, for the last few years, Clemson fans have fussed about the portal. Is that a nice way to say it? National critics have criticized about the portal at Clemson. I'm trying to be PG here. But if you looked at the roster, well, when Thomas Davis and Rukaroro come back, and these guys come back, and this guy comes back, you can only have 85, right? And you want some unknown entity over Thomas Davis? I don't. I'll take Thomas Davis and Rukaroro all day long, right?
Tyler Davis.
Tyler, did I say Thomas Davis? Tyler Davis.
Yeah.
My goodness. Wrong team, wrong position. Tyler Davis. Why do I keep saying Thomas? You said Georgia and got me thinking about Georgia, so I said Thomas Davis. He played linebacker at Georgia. But do you want Tyler Davis or Rook? I'll take them. And you go get some unknown guy that didn't play for your program for the last 4 years and who's not invested. I'll take those guys. But this year it's different. There's going to be open spots. It doesn't feel like, there's as many guys who are going to stay for that extra year, like Tyler Davis, not Thomas, and Rook did, right? I mean, are they going to have a bunch of super seniors next year? I mean, and we're almost done with the COVID year stuff, thankfully. And B, Clemson's having guys leave in the portal. Beaux Collins, Dominic Thomas just is in the portal now, running back. I mean, there's guys that are leaving.
Yep, Mitchell Mays.
Another one. So you have to fill those spots somewhere, and it can't just be, hey, we're going to put this extra kicker on scholarship. You got to go get some real players.
I'll take Philip Florenzo on scholarship. Man, that dude gets downfield after an accurate snap.
I'm fine with that.
I'll take that guy for sure. And then Toriano Pride also in the portal. Yeah.
Toriano Pride, right? You have to get some players, I think, this time. And I'm not saying Clemson is going to turn into Portal U. They're never going to be that. Not as long as Dabo is the coach. And I don't think you can build a successful program like that.
You can come real close, right? You can come real close, but then you don't have the depth if one guy gets hurt to have the playoff committee.
Oh, my God.
On your side. Oh, that's
good. For all the braggadocious attitude and for all the praising of Deion Sanders the first month of the season when they were 3-1, they went 4-8. Now, from 1 win to 4 wins is a great step, but they went 4-8 with 80 new players. Remember, that was the hot topic. But you have to be able to add some guys in the portal. Do it like Georgia does it. Do it like Bama does it.
Right.
You need a linebacker? Go get Tresman Marshall. Right?
Yep.
You need a receiver? Go get Jermaine Burton.
Yep. You know,
That's
running back,
okay.
go get Jahmyr Gibbs.
Right. It's just
We're
like
not going to
free.
mention any Georgia cornerbacks, though,
No,
right? We're not.
no, we're
Okay.
not. It's just like free agency in the NFL. You
Yeah.
build through the draft, but when you need a cornerback or defensive lineman or whatever, you go get one where they're available. And if you don't, then you're not using all the tools that are at your disposal. And Dabo's not going to do that. He's going to use everything he can to get Clemson back to a championship level. If he wasn't, you know what he wouldn't have done in the last 10 months? Or 11 months? Fire Brandon Streeter, fire Thomas Austin. Whatever the Lemansky Hall description you want it to be is. I mean, he's not there anymore.
Right.
So
and
they're going to sign some people in the portal. And I think they need a quarterback. I mean, they're down to 2 freshman quarterbacks, right? Well, not freshmen, young quarterbacks.
Right.
Not
right.
freshmen. Cade Young still. Vecina hasn't played much. Hunter Helms is gone.
Right.
I don't think, does Paul
Another.
Tyson doesn't have another year?
No, I think he's done. I think the room is down to Klubnik, Vecina, Chris Vecina, who really didn't play much last year. And when he did, he wasn't being asked to throw. It reminded me of Kelly Bryant a little bit. I would get frustrated when Kelly Bryant was the backup, get into games, and all they would do was run him. They wouldn't have him, work on his passing game in those situations. And then I think Trent Pierman is the other guy.
Pierman's the other one. Right.
Is there another walk on I'm forgetting? Because I know we lost Billy Wiles. Hunter Helms is gone now. Was there another?
Well, and
I think that's it.
Is Pierman we haven't seen Pierman play.
No.
Right. So in high school, Pierman was a quarterback.
Right.
But is he more of an athlete than a quarterback?
I think you're right about that. Yeah. But I mean, if that's currently the third guy, and again, no commits for that room coming in right now for 24 as of now.
On the roster, there's somebody named Colby Shaw, who obviously he's a walk-on, and that's it, other than the ones we've mentioned. So, do you go get another guy like Paul Tyson or Hunter Johnson the year before? Mate, I don't know.
I hope if they're going to go get somebody that, quite frankly, you look at some of the other guys around the sport, and maybe I've gotten into this before, so I won't spend a ton of time on it. But you look around the sport, and sometimes Jalen Milroe, they benched him for half a game. They started not the Notre Dame guy, they started the Notre Dame guy.
Tyler Buckner started at South Florida
over Ty Simpson, who had the offer before Klubnik had the offer. So it's a little bit of a Clemson angle to that. Milroe seemed to really benefit from being able to take time, watch on the sidelines. And the Clemson staff did not have that luxury with Klubnik this year. So if they're going to take a guy, I would like to see them go after someone who knows the dirt raid version of the air raid, who understands the system, who can come in. And frankly, if Klubnik has a quarter of bad decisions, shall we put it nicely, right? If he has turnovers, then you can absolutely say, hey, if you put the ball on the ground, you put your butt on the bench and you sit back and you watch. And I think Klubnik would benefit from that and from being told, hey, we're going to bring a guy in and we have to say, hey, you have the opportunity to start. If you're going to bring a guy in, they have to have the opportunity to start. But you have to look at Klubnik as, even if you sit this full year, you're the future. And I think he's shown enough to be the future of Clemson football. But I hope they can find a guy, if they're going to bring a guy in at all, who knows the system, who can come in and run it calmly and understand what's going on. Maybe he's only got 90 or 95 or 85% of the talent that Cade Klubnik has. And maybe that's why he's in the portal and willing to transfer to some place that doesn't have a guaranteed job. But this has to be about developing our guy. And he's got to only have 1 year remaining so that Klubnik doesn't look at this as like, oh, well, I got to go. Because you don't want to end up in that cycle of, well, then Blake Hebert comes in and he's, got 1 year to develop and then he's going to look around. You don't want Vecina leaving, because I think he is more of a long-term project kind of guy. He came from a small school, didn't play big competition, didn't see teams full of Power 5 offer guys and Group 5 offer guys every week in and week out, the speed of the game is going to be more of an adjustment for a guy like Vizina. So I don't really want to see another Hunter Johnson, Paul Tyson type come in. I mean, I wouldn't be upset with that because you have to have at least that, but I really want to see it go to a higher level this year and be someone who actually can come in, spell Klubnik, start a game if you have to make a point, and give Klubnik a time, that opportunity to not be so full speed. What your old guy Mitch Williams with the Phillies, he doesn't have to pitch. Klubnik doesn't have to pitch like his hair is on fire every single play. He can relax. He can take in some breath. He can see things happening. He can hear things on the sidelines of why things are being called, why things are happening the way they do. That's my hope for the transfer portal. That is a difficult needle to thread, admittedly, and the odds are against it. But that's what I would like to see in a perfect world.
To paraphrase Chris Tucker from Friday, why you got to bring up old stuff? Why you got to bring up Mitch Williams? I mean, come on, man. That's dirty pool. No, here's the thing.
Long as we're distracted, I got.
Where did you get the picture?
Those are my South Carolina tears. I still got some South Carolina. They're also really good. They're more of a classic flavor that you have all the time, like your favorite cola, like that's what that is. But I don't know, today they taste a little like juice today. Why do the South Carolina tears taste like juice all this time?
There's somebody Clemson could target in the portal. No, here's the thing about the quarterbacks. Why not do both?
Yeah.
You got to have 5 quarterbacks, right? And Bill, not even just having to bench Cade Klubnik if something goes wrong with turnovers. What if he gets hurt?
Yeah.
And then what if Vizina gets hurt? And you're down to 2 walk-on, preferred walk-on guys or whatever,
right.
Just friends of the program. That's scary. Yeah. And look, you don't want to wish that kind of stuff on any program.
No.
It's going to happen to somebody every year. Well, look at Iowa. They brought in Cade McNamara this year, and they thought, he's the answer to our offensive issues. And then he got hurt.
Yeah.
And they got by. I mean, they won 10 games. And Deacon Hill played pretty well at times.
Defense wins divisions.
Especially that one. But what if he gets hurt? I mean, we've seen rashes of injuries at Clemson the last 3 or 4 years, have we not?
Yeah.
What if it happens at quarterback and you're not prepared?
Well, and have we really used Klubnik in the running game the way that would have? It was very reminiscent of DJ Uyunglele 2 years ago when there was no one behind him. Then last year he was able to run a little more. You saw the offense get a little more dynamic until offensive line injuries started piling up. They lost Marcus Tate, and that was, you talk about wins above replacement or value over replacement player. I mean, hats off to Mitchell Mays for the effort that he put in that year, but it was too much of an ask too soon for 90% of offensive linemen, including him. You make a great point. I mean, there needs to be someone else, and they need to be functional, and either they need to be seeing more out of Vizina than we realize if they don't get anyone, or they just need to go get a guy, in my opinion.
I wouldn't mind them getting a late 3-star quarterback ad in this class.
Yeah.
Who is that? I don't know. But, I mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
What if it's, Chase Bryce or somebody? I mean, he was 4-star, but if you could sneak somebody in like that. Remember that year they had Hunter Johnson and Trevor Lawrence and Chase Bryce and Kelly Bryant all on the roster?
Yeah.
It can be done. Now, the portal makes it different. I get that.
Yeah, the portal subtracted from that group. The portal didn't build that group, right?
Right. But, I mean, if guys don't want to be challenged, are they the guy you want anyway?
Yeah.
And you do that at every other position, you stack talent. And look, we've seen guys leave because maybe they've been over-recruited and they're not going to play as much. RJ Mickens is in the portal, right?
Yeah.
Guys that maybe just aren't going to get as much playing time as they got 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. That's okay.
Yeah.
But you have to do that at quarterback as well. I feel like, and
Let's
I
talk.
don't. I don't think they're not. I don't think they're done at quarterback by any means.
Let's get into, wow, we got 10 minutes left here. Let's get into another position where there may be a need to hit the portal, and that is defensive end. And they are now led by the other coaching hire that isn't also regarded as a home run. I saw Trey Williams, one of the defensive tackles, tweet that this is like having Shaq and Kobe to have Nick Eason already in house. And now adding Chris Rumph, who is a familiar name to Clemson. He's coached here before. He's been on the other side of the rivalry with that little school down I-26. He has been in the NFL, and he brings a lot of gravitas once again to the recruiting trail. Whether you're talking about trying to bring in guys out of high school, which there's already a couple of good recruits for the 2024, commits for 2024. I believe they will both sign in about 8 days if all goes as intended. And then do you want to also hit the portal? And if you need to, then you've got Chris Rumph with a very strong resume of knowing what it takes to succeed in the NFL and the ability to coach those guys up.
Yeah, I believe signing day is the 20th, right? So what is that, 16 days?
Oh, okay. I thought it was the 12th. My fault.
It's the 20th. Drinking some more of those tears, right? Is that because they hired a South Carolina guy away from to be
it was
the
just because it was just because it was closer, honestly, and that's getting awkward. I'm gonna just pour myself a glass here.
Why don't you mix them together and drink the South Carolina tears and the Florida State tears again?
I'm gonna make my mayo face again.
Okay, yeah, don't do that. But we don't want to relive the mayo face. The Rumph hire surprised me because of, he left before, and there was some talk that it was a little
acrimonious.
That it wasn't positive when he left, and not that it was like, hey, we don't want you anymore. It's like, why'd you leave kind of stuff. Okay. But here's Dabo making, again, another tough decision. Lemanski Hall and Dabo are as close as you can be.
Yeah.
I mean, Dabo called him a lifelong friend almost, right? In the statement. And, so maybe it's a positive for both of them. Maybe it's best for Lemanski. Maybe it's good for Clemson. I think Lemanski did okay. I don't think he was bad at his job. But to have Chris Rumph and Eason together, I can't remember what site it was. I think it was the rival site that Larry Williams, they do such a great job over there with the quote that somebody said this was having the best defensive tackle combination in the country as far as coaches, having those two guys. So, I mean, again, another upgrade when there's a big change on the coaching staff. And I think they needed that. They needed more NFL experience. They needed more, just kind of, I can show you how to get to the league kind of stuff. Because, I mean, the defensive tackles at Clemson have been really good for a long time. But the defensive ends, have they really done as much in the league? Not really.
Bryant and Farrell, no, yeah.
Right. I mean, Bryant and Klee both made it to the league. And they're, Klee's playing for the 49ers. Bryant's on somebody's practice squad right now. He got released by the 49ers and went to somebody else. So, I do think there is more of this is a recruiting thing as well. This is a getting guys to the league thing as well. And we'll see how it works out. I think it's a great
developing
hire.
Guys. I think, yes. I think we got to develop guys. I mean, guys have been slow to develop on the ends the last several years. You saw KJ Henry finish his career strong. We just saw Xavier Thomas put together a great season. We just saw Justin Maskell flip the switch, as Dabo Swinney likes to say, and really have a very strong and solid year. TJ Parker came in ready, and don't discount what it takes for someone like a Lemanski Hall to get a guy out of high school and actually have him be functional, which is probably the past 2 seasons with Antonio Williams and Tyler Brown, why Tyler Grisham is still with this team. But back to the defensive ends, I mean, we haven't seen a lot of that. And when you've got more young guys coming up, AJ Hoffler, Stephelen Green, we've got the 2 commits this year. And I don't want to mention names there because I got the 2024 and 2025 guys flipped around in my head. I don't want to say the wrong name, but two really good recruits who I think are going to be strong in 2024 and able to contribute. But the room behind that, where are you looking at? You're looking at Jaheim Lawson. You're looking at Cade Denoff was the other guy who played the most this past year. Definitely he has room to move forward and get better. Can you get more out of Armon Mason? Do you offer him a scholarship to stick around? What have you seen out of those guys? And Zaire Patterson, who a lot of people on message boards at least take that with a large grain of salt, speculate that he might end up in the portal. Will he? Or what does Chris Rumph think of the guy? And maybe he's waiting to see, what this new coach is going to say about him before he makes that decision whether to stay or to explore other options. And don't forget, all these guys in the portal could end up back at Clemson. They could jump back out of the portal and come back to campus. It's pretty rare that happens. I don't know that it's happened at Clemson. And then
I don't remember anybody. Yeah, I don't
no,
remember.
and then some of these guys, Mickens in particular, might opt for the NFL over transferring to another college. There's rumors that Will Shipley might be thinking that way. Rumors for the second year in a row that Jake Brenningstool might be thinking that way. So a lot up in the air. But when you look at that defensive end room, and the only guy that you really see there and you think awesome is awesome that he's back, would that label only belong to TJ Parker? I think it does. And I think you've got a lot of question marks after that. And to bring in a guy like Chris Rumph, who should be able to develop talent more quickly, I wouldn't think it would be a slower development curve with him, makes a ton of sense. And then again, if they have to hit the portal and bring in someone proven, because this room is so young and so green, that would be all the more reason to have him there.
There's going to be a lot of changes on the defensive line for next year. That's okay.
Yep. Linebacker, another spot where they're going to have to, Wes Goodwin is going to have his work cut out for him in a way that he hasn't before. A very good second year for Wes Goodwin, X's and O's. Officially now has to replace Jeremiah Trotter. We're still kind of waiting and wondering about Barrett Carter. Is he going to announce? Is he going to come back? What's his, what would his role be? Would it be the same role? Did he struggle with the 4-2-5 and would Clemson want to go back to a 4-3-4? If there's struggles at defensive end, is he the kind of guy who would want to or could play as an undersized guy at defensive end? We used to wonder that about Trenton Simpson. So would he move up and take a year of doing that and add that to his NFL resume? Just a lot up in the air all over that defense. Thank goodness the secondary appears nailed down for the most part. There's depth there, even with the guys who have opted out. Nate Wiggins going pro, Jeremiah Trotter going pro at linebacker, RJ Mickens possibly going pro, possibly leaving through the portal. And then you wonder about Andrew Makuba. He had a sophomore year of injuries. Might he decide to go pro as well? 90 seconds, Daniel, with the busy week that we have had and everything has been happening. What's the headline? What's the one thing now to watch for in the coming week?
Well, I think it's recruiting. I do. I think, can they flip anybody these last couple of weeks? And I know Clemson doesn't typically go after somebody who is committed somewhere else.
Right.
But I think they could flip some guys, especially at defensive line. Again, love to hire, especially on the offensive line. I think both hires are A++ hires. I don't know that either one of the hires that they had before that were A++. Pretty good. Not bad. But these are like hit it out of the park home run hires. I know I'm mixing my sports metaphors there. Touchdown hires, if you want to say that. But no, I think it's got to be A, do they get anybody else in this class? And B, portal.
Yep.
What happens in the portal?
Also to watch this week, basketball, maybe some more Gamecock tears coming with two unbeaten teams facing off this week, the Tigers and Gamecocks. Quick word on that.
How about the Tigers? 7-0, first time in a long time. 7-0, great win at Bama, great win at Pittsburgh. They're playing really, really well. PJ Hall looks like ACC Player of the Year stuff. I mean, he's playing that well. And Bill, remember the men's soccer team going to the College Cup.
Yes,
for the national title on Friday.
So much going on. So much
Friday.
going on. You're right. Semifinals. Until the next episode, we'll get into a lot of that. I'm Bill Zimmerman.
I'm Daniel Shirley. Go Tigers.